All right. All right. We are recording. Okay. We'll take a minute to arrive. I'll just review the agenda for us before we arrive, because you can stay in our heads around the agenda just fine. So yeah, so we'll take a minute to arrive. We'll take just a minute to arrive and check in. Then we'll look at the what and the why of core values and then go through the exercise. And then I'll once we have our core values in place, we'll talk about how to use them, how and where to use them. And then I want to take a minute to introduce you to Rosie. She's not going to be able to join the call, but I'll just let you know a little bit about her, and hopefully she can be on one of our next few calls for anybody that wants to have her take you through the core stand exercise. She's really great at that. And that'll wrap us for the call. We'll look at next week. So, all right, so let's take a minute to arrive before we do the check-ins. So just sitting comfortably. If you have anything in your hand, set it down. If you can bring your feet to the floor, really great. Plug in there, just feel that connection. And before you close your eyes, just looking at your screen, looking at one another. We can feel you there, Karen. And for all the rest of you that'll be watching, we can feel we're holding space for you as well. And then go ahead and close your eyes and go inward. Just come to your breath, coming to that place just beneath your nose. And just fixate on the breath as it goes in and out of your body right here. And just make note of what's present for you physically, as well as your emotions or feelings, your state of being. Just take a moment to just speak ourselves into the room with just maybe one thing you're noticing physically and one, emotion, feeling, sensation that you're feeling energetically. And we're just going to go through one round. So just say one physical and one state of being quality. I'll go ahead and start us off. I'm present to the feeling of being seated on a bench and just kind of the firmness of the bench. And then present to some excitement. Thank you. Liam, what are you present to?
I'm present to sitting in this conference room and just having the room to myself, and present to kind of just some normal calmness of going away from work.
Thank you. And Tori?
I am present to racing heart, and I am present to anticipation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Karen, hopefully we can.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I am present to the earbuds in my ears and the weight of my body in my seat, and anticipation of some noise that's probably about to happen in the background here. Thank you.
Do you have kids about to come home, Karen?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we know that one. Cool. Nice. It's so good to see you guys again.
You too.
Since we do have a small group, I would like to take just 30 to 60 seconds, so not very long, but just to hear from each of you, just to check in. What's maybe one thing that's gone on or come up for you since we were last together last month? We'll kind of go in reverse. Karen, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, as always, being away from a couple days, there's a big rush to catch up with everything coming back, kind of re-entry. And I'm really good at making lists. So my list, but I'm starting to post them in front of my face, which is helpful to see kind of reminders of things that I want to be working on and focusing on more as a priority, and to be more productive.
Right on. And Liam, thank you.
I found myself making a lot more lists, both kind of with like all my tasks, like I'm like making all my tasks and then breaking down tasks too, so I can just kind of stay on track of what I need and want to be doing versus getting distracted and kind of doing other stuff that might not be a priority in the like current moment.
Yeah, right on. And Tori.
So when I was there, we ended up closing on another house, and my husband flew up 2 weekends ago and put a new tenant in, which was a single mom, really grateful, which was fantastic. And yesterday, I actually had the opportunity to invite someone to come live with us in our house who was in a bad situation. So she's moving in today.
Wow.
So
Very
it seems
cool.
like I kind of just put that vibe out there, and it kind of kept coming.
Isn't that amazing how that happens?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, awesome. So great. Well, cool. So thanks for that update. I know I experienced that too. I think I shared with you guys in the email. After the 2-day event, I went and taught at yoga teacher training for 6 hours, and I came the next day, I just like crashed. I'm like, I am binge watching Netflix. I'm going to do it. And it felt awesome. So there's a time and a place for just about everything. Right. So yeah, I get that. And I love that we have the opportunity to come together in this way a few more times, because it's just an opportunity to keep checking in, and a touchstone that brings our group dynamic and what we went through in that soul purpose process. It helps us, I think, integrate it into our day-to-day life even more. I love that there's kids that might be rushing in, because that's really real. And, where you're stepping away from the busyness of the office. Like there's, and Tori, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got this lady moving in with us. We're in the reality of our life. And so that's where soul purpose is meant to serve us. I love that we get to unplug from our lives and come together at the event and sort of this where we don't have to deal with all of the busyness of our life and kids and all of that kind of stuff. And then bringing it into that life and letting it serve you there is really what it's about. So especially when not a lot of people are here able to attend it live, we'll have some time to kind of integrate and kind of coach around what's happening in your day-to-day life as well. So, all right. So we're going to do core values today, and core values is kind of explain that when we talk, like what your core values are is really, it is the essence of you. It is, when the three of you, if your names were not on the Zoom, Karen, Liam, and Tori, just your presence, we would know who you are by showing up. We could feel, we spent some time with you, so we got to understand your presence and feel it. Your core values are a really big aspect of that. It's who you are being into all that you're doing. So when you showed up to that together in Well Factory in that office, when you showed up, who you are, what you brought into that room, that's your core values. That's one of the reasons I say I love every single time that I do a soul purpose event. They're always different, because the essence of who's showing up is different every time, and what that brings to it just makes it unique every single time. And your core values help you identify what that essence is. When you leave a room, it's what's missing when you're gone. Because our essence is the water that we swim in, it's really hard for us to see this for ourselves. And so we need kind of some help from others, and kind of in order to put words to it, right? kind of like what we talked about, like your soul purpose, your soul, that essence, it doesn't need words. It has its own language. But when we can put words to it, it serves us very powerfully, because our head does need language, and other people, that's how we use words and language to communicate and to connect. And so that's having the words for that helps us in our day-to-day life where we're living from the head. It provides a tool for the head to create a distinction of, am I living into my soul purpose or am I not? And I'll talk about that at the end after we do it. Everything, I talked about this in the Facebook Live I did today. Everything has an essence. Like if I look at this cup, I could give you a lot of evidence as to what makes this a cup. Like it has this bottom, it has an open top, there's tea inside, it has a handle, it's made of clay. Like, let me define what this mug is. Or I could just, boom, show you, and mug, right? So everything and every person has this essence. Just the same way when I show you this, it's a mug. I could, when Karen shows up without even seeing her name, we know it's Karen, we know it's Liam, we know it's Tori, we know it's Demi, right? So what we're going to do today is put words to that and help you claim that essence of who you really are, and what you bring to every room and everything that you do most powerfully. So, any questions or thoughts around that before we jump in? Cool. All right, so I'm going to help you guys put the words to it. We're going to take you through this exercise. And for those that are going to be watching the recording, if you'll just follow along this process, and then I'll be talking to you watching the recording along the way, kind of as we complete what to do with it towards the end. So does everybody have 2 pieces of paper and something to write with?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you have your list of people that you respect and admire?
Ooh, I can grab it.
Okay, yeah, if you'll grab that. Mm-hmm. And for those of you watching the recording, you'll need this list. How many, Liam, do you have yours? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tori, you have your list though?
Yes.
Okay, how many people are on your list?
I have 7.
Okay, perfect. I'll see how many have yet. One more.
Okay.
So, which is great, because then I get to kind of speak how to find those for people that are watching the recording. So it's perfect.
Yes.
Great. Okay. And Liam, do you have your list of people, or do you need to make your list?
I don't have it, but I can make it pretty fast.
Okay. That's great. Because I was saying this will give me a chance to actually say out loud for people watching the recording kind of how to make that list. So you'll start by making a list of people that you respect and or admire. These can be people from your childhood, maybe a teacher, a friend's parent, or just somebody in the neighborhood that you admired, looked up to. It could be somebody that you just met recently that impressed you in a certain way. It could be somebody that you know personally really well, or somebody that you have never met at all and you just admire from afar. Personally, I like there to be both of those types of people on your list, a little bit of both. So when you're thinking about people that you admire from afar, you can think of, some of your favorite authors, who would if you could, sorry, no, you're fine. If you could have lunch with anybody tomorrow, other than who is on your art list already, but if you could have lunch, dead or alive, you could pick their brain on anything, who would it be? That's kind of a way I like to look at. and kind of think in all aspects of your life too, you know, so who do you admire, how they do health and well-being, how they have incorporated their whole lifestyle. It's like, wow, they're, you know, they handle kids and a career and they're still active in their community and they seem to be calm and peaceful. Like, you know, you don't have to know what's really going on. It's what you see. We're going to be looking at that more. So yeah, that's why why I like to have people on your list that you don't know very well. Cause sometimes when you know them too well, it's like, oh, oh, that's it. Yeah, I have this thing, like I made this after a while of getting really close with all my yoga teachers that I like put on this pedestal. I admire them so much. I had this, like, I don't want to be friends with any of my yoga teachers because I just want to admire you and, you know, have this ideal of you. So, it can also be people that you admire some things about them, but not all qualities about them. I always say politicians and celebrities are great for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Liam, how many people do you have on your list so far?
So far, 8 people.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, we're looking for 8 to 10. 12 is 12. We don't need any more than 12. So how many do you have, Karen?
I have got about 6. One is a pair.
Okay. So yeah, unsplit
6.
the pair.
Okay.
So if you did write, you know, mom and dad or a couple, like separate them because we're going to want to look at people individually.
Okay.
And so that gives you 8, right? Or 7?
Yeah, 7.
Okay. So maybe see if we can think of maybe one more. Let's see if there's another way I can help you find. Oh, yeah. Kind of look at all the different areas of your life. So we talked about health, but maybe there's spirituality, fitness. I meant finance. And your career. So, you know, maybe some people you admire in the design industry,
Mm-hmm.
Karen, parenting. Yeah. Did that help you kind of maybe find your last one?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And Tori, did you get 8?
Yes.
Cool. We're good to go now. Okay. And did all of you write your list of people on your first piece of paper going down your page vertically, like in list format?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to start with the first person on your list. And you're going to start by making a list of qualities going right next to your list of people. So here's your list of people. You're going to write a list of qualities going right next to your list of people for only the first person. I'm going to walk you through the second person together. So don't go there yet, just yet. Okay. And it feels a little counterintuitive, like making, you know, okay, here's my list of people. Here's qualities about just my first person paralleling the entire list. It feels a little counterintuitive. Once I walk you through the second person, it'll make sense why I'm having you do it that way. And you want to try to keep your qualities to a 1 or 2 word adjective quality. Stay away from nouns and archetypes and action descriptions. You can put them down. So let's just say great mother, but list out, but because, you know, Tori might look at that great mother and see patient and gentle and compassionate. And Karen might look at that same great mother and see, oh, they're playful and they're disciplined, right? So we see different things. So we want to really pull out, what are you seeing in that great mother, successful business owner, you know, great speaker. Same with action descriptions. Those two we can see in action and admire. Different people can admire that same action in the same person and admire different qualities about how they're doing it. So we want to pull out, if you see like, oh, they're a great listener, that's something that they're doing. So if you notice that you're writing down, you're admiring about something that they're doing, look at who are they being into the doing and put that on your list. Okay. So go ahead and list out on just that first person. There's no minimum or maximum amount of qualities, just until you can't think of any more. And then let me know when you're done. Okay. And Karen and Liam, you guys are still just on the first person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Just wanted to make sure. You guys have some great people on your list. I can already tell. So awesome. Okay. So now you've got qualities of your first person started. So now when you go to your second person, you're going to start by going through the qualities that you just listed out for your first person. If the second person on your list also has any one of those qualities, put a check mark next to that quality. And then when you get to the bottom of the list, if there are additional qualities that the second person brings to the list that aren't listed yet, add them to the list. Okay. And then, and if you get to somebody and you feel like you get stuck, oh, what is it when somebody does this? Just say out loud, hey, what is it when somebody does this? And we, all of us, the rest of us here can kind of shout out a few qualities we see in that action or archetype that might help you find what you're looking for. So just shout out. Okay. And then when you get done with your second person, you can go ahead and go through all of your people this way. So you'll get to your third person, go down the list of qualities, make a check mark where appropriate, and then add any additional qualities to the list. And then let me know when you're done. And for just sort of for the benefit of people watching the recording, I'm actually going to stop the recording here and pick it back up when I pick up so that they don't have to. And before I do that, for those of you watching the recording, you'll want to pause it and then finish doing this process and then hit play when you're ready. Yeah, I knew I was in danger. Okay. All right. So while you guys are finishing doing that, my friends watching the follow-up, I'm going to say that again just so that it's for the recording. I always should know better. Thank you, Tori. So now you're going to do the heart light test, and you can open up to page 5 in your soul purpose workbook, or on the blank piece of paper, use that. You're going to take each of the qualities that have a check mark next to them, or actually all of the qualities that you have listed out there. You want to start with the ones that have a lot of check marks next to them first and take them through what I call the heart light test. The heart light test is looking at one quality at a time to see if it lights your heart up. You'll know that it does when you feel like, oh yeah, I love being around people with this quality. When I'm experiencing this quality, it gives me a boost of energy and lights me up. If you can answer yes to that, it's going to transfer over either onto page 5 or onto the blank piece of paper. Okay, you want to go through them one at a time. They may all transfer over, that's fine. They may not all transfer over, that's fine too. Karen, I can't tell if you're done or not. Like the
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
are.
just
Okay.
read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I couldn't tell if, the angle on your camera.
Sorry. Oh, I'm
No, that's fine.
blocking it.
That's fine. Okay, great. So you guys all have your qualities transferred over either to page 5 or on the blank list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're writing on the blank piece of paper, write this above your list. These are my sole purpose core values. These are my sole purpose core values. That's already typed out in your workbook, so you don't have to type that in. In your workbook, there might be a blank line to fill in, and if there's not, just above your core values, you'll write I am ... So these are my sole purpose core values. I am ... Okay. Cool. And then at the bottom of your list, you're going to write this. I know they are mine. I know they are mine because I see them in others. I know they are mine because I see them in others. Cool. You guys' like writing makes this really cool sound. Like it's like super cool. Like man, making magic. So okay, so now this is where this is really fun getting to do this in a group dynamic and getting to do it video, because we're going to speak this aloud to others, and this is really powerful because it gives us the ability to really own our essence, speaking who we are into a room full of extraordinary people. It's owning it, and owning it in the presence of other extraordinary people is really powerful. So I'll have each of you take turns, and we'll start by, well, when you go, you want to start saying it from the top. So these are my sole purpose core values. I am, and then read each one of your qualities nice and slow for 2 reasons. First and foremost, so that you can take it in as you say it aloud to others. And secondly, I want to take notes. I want to capture your core values here. So I might type in a few. And then when you're done, just reading the bottom, I know they are mine because I see them in others. Okay. Now I'm going to give you forewarning. If you read it really fast and look down the entire time, I'm going to invite you to do it again. Okay. Because the whole, the benefit of being able to own it in this way is to really own it. Right. And so I actually did this in the yoga teacher training. And I had just about every woman in the circle say it 2 or 3 times. And but the more that they owned it, you could feel the difference of when they really owned it and brought it into the room. It made an impact in the energy of the circle. So yeah, forewarning. And for those of you watching the recording, I am a request for you speaking yourself into the room in this way in our next, one of our next 2 Zoom calls. So I'll give a little bit of a time for anybody who's there who wants to speak it in this way. It's really powerful to do it in that way. So, all right. Anybody want to go first? Chomping at the bit to like.
Sure. I'll do it.
Great. Thanks, Karen.
So you want us to read each word? I say I am.
You don't have to say I am in front of each one, but start with these are my sole purpose core values. I am, and then say each quality nice and slow and taking some time to look up into our eyes.
Okay. See if I can organize this here. Okay. Mm-hmm. These are my sole purpose core values. I am centered. I am positive. I am healthy, spiritual, motivated, a contributor, loving, warm, familiar, trusting, intelligent, social, embodied, and a connector.
Mm.
And I know this because I see this in others.
Mm. Aho. Right on. Mm. Just want to take a minute before we move to the next person to really notice the impact. Can you feel when Karen speaks that? Can you feel that? Yes, that affirmation of like that knowing who we know she is. Yeah, that really resonates. Can you guys, Liam and Tori, can you guys feel that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great description of Karen.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Cool.
You're welcome.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Great.
These are my sole purpose core values. I am compassionate. I am methodical. I am creative. I am happy. I am a good guide or teacher. I am real and honest. I know these are mine because I see them in others.
Mm. Aho. And again, can you guys feel Liam's essence? It's like that affirming, yeah. Cool. And Tori.
These are my sole purpose core values. I am dedicated, hardworking, driven, educated, passionate, moral, intelligent, generous, caring, reasonable, and reliable.
Mm. And then just say at the
I
end.
know these are mine because I see them in others.
Yeah. And so it is. Yeah. You guys, again, when Tori speaks herself into the room that way, can you feel that resounding affirmation of like, yes, that is who Tori is?
Yeah.
Mm. So I'd love to hear from each of you. Just what was it like to speak yourself into the room in this way? What came up for you? What did you experience?
Well, it's interesting. I skipped a couple things on my list as before I said them. Like I thought about it and I was like, well, no, maybe not. And then as others were speaking, I started jotting notes like, oh, that's a good one.
Uh-huh.
You know, I started hearing things that I didn't catch for myself that I felt like I should have, that should be part of my values.
Cool. I want to speak to that. In just a minute, but I want to ask about the ones that you didn't read that were on your list and you filtered. Why did you filter those? What was coming up around that made you say, oh, I don't know?
Well, I think that I guess it's more of maybe it's a misunderstanding of what it should be. It's like because you see it in others, sometimes you desire to be that way, but you know that maybe in your heart you're not that way.
Yeah, so what was the thing that you thought that I like that in others, but I know in my heart that's not me? What was it?
Well, so one of the people that I admire and have always admired is a dear friend of mine who's just like super spontaneous and carefree and, you know, hiked herself across the country hitchhiking, you know, back in the day kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I love her for all of that, but I'm not that. Like I'm not super, I mean, I'd like to be spontaneous sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly helpful as a parent. Although I find myself even less and less spontaneous as a parent. But that, I think I sort of, walked to the edge with that and then kind of was not spontaneous enough to say it.
I love that. I love it. So I want to check in around this, and this helps me speak to something that's really important about these core values and your essence, because it isn't, so this exercise is the reason I do it in this way. I kind of go around the back door to look into the mirror of your soul to see who you really are. Because if I had taken you through the front door, I would have emailed you all ahead of time a list of qualities and had you circle the ones that you resonated, narrow it down to this, narrow it down to that, right? And there's some core values exercises out there, they do it that way. But if you do it that way and go in the front door, monkey mind is going to get in the way to not want you to see who you really are, right? Because if you see who you really are, then, oh shit, what do you
Right.
need to do, right? So that's the reason I kind of take you around the back door to see, look into the mirror. Now, this is, in this process, it's like, that's why you're checking in of, does this light me up? Does this quality? So spontaneous for you, Karen, when you are not being spontaneous in a moment that really calls for it, what's that like for you?
Frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Probably realizing I was a little too planned out and could have been enjoying myself had I just let go a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm going to propose and challenge you that spontaneous is who you are. You see it in your friend, you admire it because you have a receptor site in your heart for the same quality because it is you. Others would look at it and, oh yeah, that's cool, but like not feel about it the way that you feel about it. Right. And so our core values is really looking at, also it's kind of identifying the blueprint of that essence, like what is the usness that we bring into the room that is our truest essence. And the reason it's really important to put words to it too is there's also other, like Karen, you were noticing when people were saying other qualities, ooh, I should be that too. I really like that. The reality is there's hundreds of other great qualities that we can demonstrate and get a lot of value out of demonstrating and enjoy it and use that quality from time to time. But if it's not one of our core values, we don't want it on the list here. And I'll tell you why. Because this is really identifying that soul purpose element of you and who you are as at that essence in words, right? And you'll know that it's you because as you look at, so if all of you look at your qualities listed out here, you can really know that this is you when you look at, when your actions are out of alignment with anything on your list, what's that like for you? The frustration that Karen said, what else do you experience when your actions are out of alignment with any one of these qualities? What else?
Kind of like unmotivated.
Yeah, like energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about for you, Tori? What does that do for you?
I am sorry. I'm having technical difficulties.
Like me, I know. You just, yep, I know. That's my soul sister has been us in technology.
Like, ah.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. You're good. So we're looking at when your actions are out of alignment with the qualities on your list, what's that like for you?
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Almost disappointing. Like I'll just be like, oh, why can't I do that? Or why can't I feel this way or be that when I really want to do it?
Yeah.
And I noticed that those are the times where I really beat myself up.
Yeah. It's so like all of this that you guys are describing is what I call incoherence. Incoherence occurs when your actions are out of alignment with the truth of who you really are. So incoherence is a state of frustration, resignation, cynicism, apathy. Our energy drops and we feel off. We're just like in this funk. It's like draining. It's like we have the sense of inertia. I just want to curl up. And it's when I want to, another, time I want to binge watch Netflix is when I'm experiencing incoherence with my soul purpose. Can you relate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You find a distraction.
Yeah. You want to be just, yes. But have you guys ever experienced like feeling off, but not sure why or in what way?
Sure.
And it's really hard when you're feeling off, but you don't know in what way. You don't know what to do about it. Right. And so this, like having it clear in writing black and white is a tool that you can have some discernment around, well, if I'm feeling off or in what way, or if I'm feeling off in what aspect of my soul purpose am I experiencing incoherence with? Right. I had this experience once. I tell the story that it was like when I was pregnant with my daughter. So this was like 8 years ago, or more than 8 years ago. A friend of mine invited me to her yoga workshop. It was like this goddess workshop that she was doing, and she comes to a lot of mine. So I knew that I wanted to say no, because I was like 9 months pregnant and I was so tired. I didn't want to go, but I just couldn't bring myself to say no. So I said yes. And I drudgingly got myself there, and I showed up, and I was just so tired. I just wanted to be resting. And I went through her workshop, and she went over by a half hour, and I was so cranky and ornery about her going over 30 minutes, and started complaining in my head, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And got home, and I was just so inner bitchy that I was like, I had to sit down and be like, what is going on? I knew I was triggered over to 2. I don't know if I shared with you guys, my metric is like, anytime you're triggered over 2, it's your own shit. And if I shared with you that metric. So that's one of my barometers in life. Of any time that you're triggered on a scale from 1 to 10, over a 2, it's your shit. I got that from a shaman, and that's the words he used, is like, it's your shit, right? Which I love that, because anytime I'm triggered over a 2, that means I have the capacity within me to rectify the situation. And if I'm triggered under a 2, it's really no big deal anyway, right? So I was like checking in, and I'm like, I'm definitely triggered over a 2. This is my stuff. What is going on here? And I could not figure it out. I just could not figure it out. So sorry about that. Dinging. And so I went to my core values, and I looked at the list, and like truthful popped out like a neon sign for me. And I was just like, Dimmy, you said yes when you meant no. You were out of integrity. You did something that you didn't want to do. That's it, bottom line. And as soon as I saw that, I had this immediate shift. My whole energy changed. I looked back at her workshop. I saw what an incredible job she did. I mean, she brought roses for everybody, chocolates, and it was just this beautiful offering. It's just, I was 9 months pregnant and just wanted to rest. I was out of being truthful, right? So that's kind of how one of the ways that this list will serve you as an identifier for, coherence and incoherence in your life. And that being said, there's other qualities that you can get a lot of value out of demonstrating. And you heard some of the other people saying, it doesn't mean that you don't, that's not in your wheelhouse to use. It just means that when you're not being that, you won't experience the incoherence. Right? So generous is one of my core values. It is not one of my husband's. And you can see in our lives how this plays out differently. It's very interesting because, getting to be very generous is something that really lights me up and I love doing. And he likes to be generous. He's a very generous person, but he's not generous the same way that I'm generous. And when he's not being generous, it doesn't bother him. So you can still get a lot of value out of doing it, but he doesn't have to give out the type of bonuses around Christmas that I do. And he's like always questioning, I'm always overpaying for things, but it's one of my ways of just getting to be generous, right? I want to pay this and do that. And it always kind of, I wouldn't say it rubs him. We're always challenging each other on it, but not in a way that is a like this. It's just, you're able to see and identifying that that's one of my core values. It's not one of yours. He gives me more leeway. And then he also helps me not go overboard with the being generous. Right. So Karen, can you, like, some of the qualities that you listed out that when you were hearing the other people say it, the ones that you were like, oh, I should have that one too. If you did the litmus test around when your actions are out of alignment with those qualities, do you feel that frustration and resignation and drop in energy or not?
For the ones I didn't list out?
Yeah, that you were saying, oh, I should have those. Did you write the ones down that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think maybe I just didn't give myself enough time to finish. It's been interesting because this has happened to me. This has actually happened to me twice, maybe more times than that before, where with my old business partner, she and I sat down and kind of did this, to kind of talk about direction of our business and, were we on the same page and all that, and wrote down the things that, made us most fulfilled. And I left off, like, to me, like some of the biggest things didn't even make it to the list, which is kind of strange. And I don't know if it's just because it's present so much every day that I didn't put it. So Liam said creative. I'm like, why didn't I put that down? Like, it's what I do every day. It's definitely who I feel like I am and embody in pretty much everything I do, but I didn't like qualify it with a word.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and that brings up that really a good point. So when you're looking at additional qualities, the thing to really identify is this one of my core values, or is this just another quality I enjoy using? The determining factor is when your actions are out of alignment with that quality, does it create incoherence for you? If it does create incoherence when you're, not being creative, then add it to your list.
Right.
If being creative is just something you love to do and you don't experience incoherence when you're not being it, then don't add it to the list. And it can still be a value that you really operate with, right?
Right.
So this is your sole purpose core values. This is like the anchor of who you are, the essence of what you bring into all that you do. I want to create a distinction between these core values and your business core values now. I love that I use my hands in this, right? So because this is the essence of who you are, and you're bringing all of this into your business regardless of if this is one of your business's core values or not. But when it comes to determining what your business is about and what those core values are, that you can determine individually. That can be more of an intellectual discovery rather than this sort of metaphysical play of going through the back door to look to see who we really are. Because that is, who do we want to be in the world? What are we standing for as a business? Knowing that I'm bringing all of these things into whatever I do, knowing that that's there, what are my core values in my business? And that's really a lot of, the 3-year vision game that we played at the Soul Purpose Live, like playing into that, like if you were to really take the essence of your vision and put it into the future, your business being expressed in the world in the most exquisite way possible, without limitations, without any restrictions, without any expectations. What does that look like? And put yourself in that. And as you look at what the business is doing there, from that perspective, what are the core values your business stands for? And kind of start to narrow those down. Right? Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. I saw a face of confusion, Karen.
I just have I have some things happening in the background that I think I need to step away from for a minute.
Okay.
So I will be right. It's not you.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. So, and I went to, Garrett just introduced our coaching team to this guy. His name is Evan Carmichael. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like got 2 million YouTube subscribers. I didn't know who he was, and it was fun to not know who he was and then be introduced to him, to really have a unbiased experience of who he is and how he shows up. I really liked this guy. He's a self-proclaimed weird duck. And I just loved this about him. I loved his uniqueness and his weirdness, how he showed up with it. And he's really about the one word, like helping entrepreneurs. His big focus is helping entrepreneurs. And he likes having entrepreneurs focus on their one word. What would your one word be? I really, as a business, like out in the world, what's my message? Boil it down to one word. I love that idea because especially as we look at soul purpose in the context of it's all of this and the impact, and we look at, playing with that book concept too, there's like all of these stories and all of these messages within us. There's a lot that we believe and we stand for. And so if you can have that one word that anchors it, it's really interesting. I started experimenting with this. What's that one word? And then go back and look at all of this stuff and then look for the common thread in all of the experiences and all of the messagings. How does it relate to this one word? So I really like that. And if you want to be a rebel, kind of like me, have 3 words. But I think it can be really useful when you're looking at your business to have an anchoring 1 to maybe 3 words in that core value essence of like, above all, this is what we stand for. His one word is believe. My word that I'm playing with right now is sisterhood. It means something different to me, sisterhood of, so I really like that. It's always been this like greatness was always my one word, but I'm really loving this like sisterhood of being a stand for women being with each other in the world differently. Right. So kind of play with that. Actually, let's play with that right now. Because I believe our one words are like, it's there and it just starts to come out. And if you, so I want to give you a chance to just voice. If you're one word, if you had to own one word of what your business offering is, or the vision of your business or your project or whatever it is that you want to do in the world, what would that one word be? Tori.
Integrity.
Integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And what does integrity mean to you?
Basically, it means doing the right thing regardless. You always want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And if for some reason, even if you're doing it just a little bit wrong and you find out, well, then you need to figure that out. You need to fix your policies and procedures or whatever it is that you're doing and make sure that you are doing it the right way.
Right on.
How we, basically, with all of our businesses, especially with our medical practice, that's how we, make sure that we are treating our patients appropriately, treating our staff appropriately, just checking in and taking surveys and making sure that we're still following with that mission of integrity of best service.
I love that. I really love that. It's, Lynn Twist, I really liked her. I never believed in balance. I didn't like going for that because I was like, oh, that's robots. And Lynn Twist sees the world in that way. She's like, I don't believe in going for balance. I believe in going for integrity. That is what her thing is. And she also talks about integrity when you are in that, in alignment with your truth and doing it in that way, that right way that you're talking about, then it's workable. If you're in integrity, if it feels workable.
Yes. You said her name was Lynn Twist?
Lynn Twist. I love her, Tori. She's like, she wrote a book called The Soul of Money. You would love her. She's in person. If you ever get a chance to see her live and in person, she's just, maybe YouTube her. She does she has I think a TED Talk or two, some YouTube videos. And she's just like, she reminds me of a pixie fairy. Like in person, she just is a very delicate, small human being with this just huge, large presence and huge love. You'd love her.
Yeah. I'll look her up. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Liam, what would your one word be?
I have a hard time narrowing it down. I kind of have one that would work better for business and then one that would kind of work better for life.
Cool. Take two. Be a rebel.
Yeah. And I guess I can have one that kind of is for both. So I guess for both, it'd be creative.
Cool.
For both business and in life. But then the other one that was really standing out was methodical.
Is that for business or life? The methodical?
A little bit more business, but it's also with life too, because, just knowing you like actually want to do something, being methodical about it, I think is, good for, kind of all aspects. So.
Yeah. I like those two words together too. Creatively the methodical or methodically creative. Like it could be fun to play around with those two. See what you see. Cool. Karen, we were kind of playing with this idea of like, if you had to create one word. Hey, Mike.
Hi.
How are you?
Hey.
What's that?
Great job today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being there.
Glad.
So it was fun. I'm going to do some more. I have
Well, I put my alert on, so.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. It'll supposedly tell me when you're on. So have a good one. I'll let you guys go. I got to get to work.
Okay. Sounds good. So Karen, we're playing if you had to have boil down kind of a one word for your business. I was sharing with him, I met this guy, Evan Carmichael. He's got like 2 million YouTube subscribers. His focus is on helping entrepreneurs, and he's an advocate for having your one word in business. And his is believe. I was saying mine is sisterhood. Tori's is integrity. Liam is a rebel, picking 2 words, methodically creative. But if you just kind of feeling the essence of your business, if you had to put like one word to it, like this is who we are in the world, what would it be?
Oh, geez. Like one word off of our list, or one word?
No. Yeah, it doesn't have to be off your list, of just, kind of feeling into the essence of your business. Even if you went into that kind of future ideal version of that best expression of your business, what's the essence of it?
That's hard. One word. I'm not good with one words.
Okay, be a rebel. Be a rebel. Take 2 or 3.
One word for my business would be I don't know. You'll have to come back to me on that. I don't know.
And so for those of you watching the recording, I'd love for you to share with maybe in an email or in the Facebook group, the Well Factory Facebook group. My business one word is, share it, speak it. And by the way, it can change. I think sometimes putting it out there, like when I first heard this, I started playing around because the word that was all as a part of my core stand, very prevalent in it, is greatness. And that seemed like the obvious one. And that's really what it would have been a year ago. But today, the sort of guiding essence for my business is more about this sisterhood of, supporting women to be in the world together in a different way. Like that's really feels like that's that thing that is my business in the world that identifies it. Karen, why I was saying where I really like the idea of having a one word is that when we look at the complexity of our business and our sole purpose, there's so much to it, right? And the reason I like the kind of one word idea, I was playing around with Evan Carmichael's suggestion around doing it, is that it anchors into this one thing. And then when you go back and you look at all of your stories and, here's, all of my core values, my drivers, and here's my core stand, you can just start, and all of these experiences in my life, you can start to see the common thread of this word through it all. It's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And again, you can play with more than one word, but the more simplistic you can start to play with, you can have this anchor of oh, here's all of this stuff. And it really points to this. It just gives more clarity. So yeah. Which I'll talk to when I talk about the book stuff, I'll share with you guys something else interesting that has come about since we were together. So let me think. Any questions on core values? Okay. So how to use them in the world. So one place is you got you have your soul purpose workbook and they're referenced there. One of the reasons that I created the soul purpose workbook is to really have a place where all of your soul purpose reference lists are. You have your core values and you have your core drivers lists now identified. We did the core drivers. That's that aspect of, what's most important to you as a part of your soul purpose. And we did that at the event together. So those 2 lists are your 2 completed soul purpose lists under that who you are piece of your soul purpose, right? So here's what I'd love for you to do between now and our next call and continue doing this. You want to start to observe your life, watch for incoherence and coherence, like start to notice when you are in the flow and your energy's up. And we talked about that spirit energy, where you're like, I just had this experience with Wade last week, Wade Reed. I was really tired. It was last week and we had a meeting at like 3:30 in the afternoon. I was really tired before that. He came into my office and we started talking about this idea of he and I doing a little bit of an offering together of, really bringing in some of his like heady number stuff and some of this, this spiritual and metaphysical concept of money and starting to kind of do something. We just started brainstorming for an hour. And on my drive home, I was like, man, my energy is so different from when we started the meeting versus now, because I was just lit up, right? And so when you have those moments that you notice a drastic energy change in your energy, reference your soul purpose drivers and core values. And
Thank you.
Notice which ones are being expressed. Oh, because a lot of times in that moment, wow, there's like almost all of them are being demonstrated here. There's, as well as your core drivers. Oh, being a phenomenal coach, being a contributor to my community, being financially successful, being a great and loving family member. All of those were, in that conversation with Wade that I was having, all of those were being lit up. And I was getting in relationship with new possibilities for demonstrating them in the world in a way that would be really exciting to me. So notice that. Also notice when you have that off, if you have an off day and your energy's down, reference these lists as well. Your core values and your core drivers to notice, okay, my energy's feeling off. I feel a little in a funk. As you look at these two lists, ask yourself, where am I in incoherence? Just kind of scan the list and see if anything kind of like pops out like a neon sign, like it did for me. So it's really interesting. A lot of times too, when you do it in that way, it's when you see it, like when I shared with you that story of going to that yoga workshop that I should have said no to, just seeing it shifted my energy. I didn't even need to take any other action beyond that. I was like, oh, okay. I could feel a greater resolve within myself to only live within my truth and only say yes when I really could mean yes. I could feel that as I experienced that. Okay. And then keep playing with your core values in your business, understanding that those are uniquely different from your soul purpose core values, because you bring your soul purpose values into everything that you do. But your business core values are going to be more of an intellectual, deliberate decision about who you're being as a business, the impact that you want to ensure that you make in the world. Okay. Cool. These are also going to be the things when you work with Wade to create your investment criteria. These will be the things that you're bringing to that session with him to, work on those things as well. So I want to talk a little bit about your core stand statement and, the options for doing that. So your core stand is another one of the 4 identifiers of your soul purpose around who you are. And it's putting into words your strongest held beliefs, your convictions, your absolute knowings, and these knowings that come from your soul purpose, not the knowings that come from your monkey mind, right? So the rafts that we build are a lot of knowings around that come from our mind and our monkey mind, but our core stand is sort of the beliefs and the knowings that come from the truth of our soul, right? And so these are very much, it's kind of what we talked about, referencing back, remember that comedian who, had the guy sing that song twice. And when he sang it with meaning, it was so much more powerful. It invoked connection. Right? And that's what your core stand does, because your core stand is speaking from the depths of your soul, from the depths of your meaning. It is why it's putting words into why you're willing to do the things that don't make any sense to do, right? Because our soul purpose nudges us to do things that don't make any sense to do. Start businesses, fall in love, have kids, grow our businesses, write a book, make available homes for people who have been hard on, life has been hard on. Like none of that stuff logically makes any sense, right? And being able to put words to it is powerful. It's what does make sense about it for us. And when it makes sense about it for us, it lights us up even more. And more importantly, it speaks to another person. I call it bridge communication. It's being able to give you the experience of how I feel so passionately about the way I feel about this in a way that can touch your heart and your soul in that same way. Because have you ever, you know the difference with, the distinction, I actually wish I had 2 videos. I need to kind of be on the hunt for this. And if you guys see these videos, help me out, because what I wish I had right now is a video of somebody speaking their truth in a way that they had articulate words for, and you could feel it. You could feel that connection. Even though it wasn't the same thing that you believed in and what you stand for was different, they ignited something in you that really lit you up. Maybe it's kind of like Tori about, this, like Tori, it wants to create homes for every, give people who are the second chance that life has been hard on and they can't get in a home. She wants to do that. Like we want that. But that's not what I feel called to do and the impact that I feel to make in the world. But when Tori speaks from her, soul purpose, from her why, when she does it in a way that the words can land, I feel as lit up about her mission and her vision as she does. Right? Like Liam speaking about living a life of adventure and, going and living boldly and courageously. He can speak about it, and I'm not called to do that right now in my life. But if he speaks it in a way that's really coming powerfully from his heart, I can feel as magnetized about his vision and his dreams as he does. And it'll excite in something me that wasn't there before he spoke. Right? And same with you, Karen, and everybody. Right. So what I wish I had is somebody who was speaking about, I'm going to be on this would be a great video to have, because it's almost like it would almost be a before and after for somebody, because we never can speak about this articulately unless we have done some workshopping around it, because it's connected to our limbic brain. And once you fire off in the limbic brain, you're there in the limbic brain and you don't have access to your articulation of words and language the way you do when your limbic brain I wouldn't say shut off. It's never fully shut off, but when it's in the background and your cognitive brain, you can be more articulate. But when the limbic brain comes forward and you're operating and you're feeling from here, words and language will fail you because it's back here. Right?
It's almost like when you're so either excited or devastated that you don't have words for it.
That is exactly it. Yes. Yeah. And so what I wish I had is here is me trying to talk about what I believe in, what I'm most passionate about, trying to put words to it. It's blubbering all over the place, kind of like I'm doing right now, right? Right? Versus once you have taken the time to really sit down and worked with another person to really pull that messaging and pull those words out for you, you've rehearsed it a bit so that you sync up the hemispheres of the brain, and then speak about what it lights you up from this place. And you wouldn't do it from memorization. You would do it from, you've connected your limbic and your cognitive brain in a way to serve you powerfully, that you can speak about what you're most moved by in a way that moves others. Right? And that's sort of your core stand is really a part of that. That's kind of that foundational piece of that, or a component to it. Right? And so the way that works, and Rosie Hackett on our team is the one that does that. Liam, you and I will work on that one. If you want to do that, we'll talk about that. But Rosie, for Wealth Factory members, that's just one of her strengths, her wheelhouse to work on that. So it's what she'll do is ask you a series of questions that target your limbic. The ones we went through. But what she's going to do is ask you questions and maybe take a few notes around it, maybe ask deeper into those questions, and she's just taking notes. And then she'll work with your words and phrases cognitively to rearranging them to come up with kind of a template statement to feed back to you to see if it lands. And then from there, you rehearse that statement, and rehearsing it is different than memorizing it. Rehearsing it, you're falling more into the rhythm of it, and you're not attached to it being word for word verbatim. So every time you rehearse it, you might discover ways you like saying it better. And you're syncing more, you're just giving more of a sync in your brain for giving your giving your limbic brain cognitive words and phrases to be able to speak from that place. So then the next time that you are wanting to speak about that powerfully, you have words and phrases. You're able to do it. Yeah. Okay, so that's one of Rosie's specialties. So just, so Karen, for you and anybody else watching the recording that wants to do that process with Rosie, actually, I'll send you an email and you let me know and you can respond to the email and then we'll get that scheduled for you, right? Okay. So the next call that we'll do together, the group call, is going to be to work on the book. I wanted to do this, the second one, so that by the third call, if anybody wanted a little bit of help or anybody wanted to share something, there would be the space to do that. And I recently just picked up a book called Building Your Brand Story. I think that's the name of it. I will, in a follow-up email, I'll send it to the group. And this one too talked about, it was like twice in 1 week. I was reading this book and it was talking about pain is your purpose. And then when I went to listen to Evan Carmichael, he said the same thing, pain is your purpose. And I've heard that idea before. And when I do the stories for people, oftentimes I'll ask them, especially when we're in a kind of a smaller, intimate setting, and we work together a little bit, I'll actually ask them, when they're starting to tell their brand story and I'm not feeling it, if I'm not feeling it, I will ask them, I'll say, what's the story you don't want to share? And it is always when the most potent story comes out. When that story comes out, it's like, whoa. And we always have this realization, that's it. That's the story that really, and that's really the story that developed that why, right? So I'm going to share that book with you guys. It might be, if you like this idea of where we were going with this book project, creating the book cover where you have, here's my book title, here's my author's note, that really identifies why, it puts into words why I am called to do the work I am called to do in the world. And you have not only a statement around that, but you have your kind of brand story. This is, it's as a result of this, I discovered this. Discovering this, I had to do this. When you speak about it in that way, it's so powerful for people. That's just a place where trust and connection and loyalty is born in your audience. And when you have that, that's where we want to get as entrepreneurs, right? Really building that brand connection with audience in our message, right? So I will post that book and kind of play around with it. It's a very simple process of pulling out that story. So I really liked it. And that might give you some extra tools to work with around the book covers. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Did you guys, and I'd love to hear from the three of you. How did that exercise serve you or not serve you? Do you like the idea still, or has it fallen flat for you?
The exercise about the book?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I always like doing stuff like that. So anytime there's an exercise that can sort of visually represent, like put it down on paper, and you can it's kind of like you said, putting it out there, speaking it, like when you put it out there, it kind of makes you really look at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was a good idea. I haven't worked on it since the workshop.
Okay.
But I still have it here in my notebook, and I've been thinking about it. So
at the workshop, Karen, were you able to identify a story of your past that really related to why you do what you do today?
I don't know if it's one particular story, because it's been kind of a constant since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's any one particular story. It's been more just about sticking with it and honing it and trying to funnel it into something that makes sense for, the way our life changes. So what was good for me when I was 10 years old is certainly not good for me now, but I'm still very passionate about it, and I know more about it, and I have educated myself, and my phone is about to die here. So for all of those, reasons, I think it's about learning how to morph things into what's relevant today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I want to invite you to explore between now and when we talk next, explore this idea of pain being your purpose. That was really poignant for me. Like I had danced around it. I had told this story over here, and then the business, I had this other story and how it went here. I had compartmentalized it a lot. And I knew that pain in our life had a direct relation, but just seeing it just twice in 1 week, pain is your purpose. I was like, oh, well, let me look very specifically at that. And when I did, it was so interesting. And as I started to tell that story in that way, I shared it with Tori. Tori, I told you about the being teased in junior high. Like I saw that. I used to share that in the yoga rooms. Like it was like, this makes sense for this. When I saw, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense as to why I am called to do this. It was so much fuel for me. And when I'm talking about what I do, if I go into that story, it's the story going into sharing the story is easier for me than going into like a statement. I can talk about the story, and it puts me into the essence of that statement. It puts me into the essence of that. I feel connection, and I'm creating connection with that audience through storytelling right there. And it just sort of softens for me the like, okay, let's drop in. Now I can tell you more about my business. Now we're connected, right? Mm-hmm. So I might invite you and anybody watching the recording to play with that really poignantly. What's your greatest pain in life? What was it? And how does that make sense why you do what you do? Yeah. So I want to check in with Tori and Liam about like how anything come up for the book. Where has it landed for you? Tori.
So with the book, it's, the story that I was kind of doing was for me. It's definitely never a book I'm going to publish.
Yeah. Yep.
It's definitely never a book I'm going to write.
Yep. Yes.
Because it's still too personal, still too real for me.
Yes.
But it enabled me to just kind of have an outlet and start journaling my thoughts on it.
Yes.
So I'm kind of using it more for a self-serving purpose than a possible business avenue.
Perfect. And I want to give everybody here and watching the recording the same space. So, because I do think it's a huge healing opportunity to really dive into that pain. And how does it make sense that you are who you are today because of it in a positive way? And looking at that, and if you do this process and it still feels very real for you, you're still in the healing of it, and you don't want to share it with a group, that's totally fine. I think it can be really valuable still to go through that process, journal it, write it, look at it in that way. And if you're not ready to share it in an audience, I don't think that we should, especially the stories of our pain. We have to kind of go through, I have a belief that we need to go through a certain amount of being with it and healing with it before we can share it in service to others in a way that will help us even heal even more with it. So yeah. Cool. Thanks for bringing that idea into the group, Tori, because I think that's a powerful one. Cool. How about for you, Liam?
I found it after I journaled at the workshop it was a good spot to go back and check in on kind of my thoughts and like where I ended up going with that. It was a good place to like keep checking in. I haven't worked on it more, but I've like looked at it a bit since, just to kind of like come back almost to center and use it as like a check-in point.
Cool. Right on. So once again, I you too encourage you go more direct with what's your greatest pain. How does that relate? And again, if you go to that greatest pain and you see what it is, and you realize, wow, I see what that is, but I don't want to share it with the group. That's why I want to give you permission to like, see what it is, journal it, be with it, play it out. No, you don't have to share it with a group if you don't want to, or you don't feel ready to. Because I think it'll be more powerful to identify what it is and how it relates for yourself first. And, cool. And then in my follow-up email, I'll send you guys that book reference. If you really like this idea, I think you'll enjoy that. That's a good book to get. And he's got it's when you want to get the actual book, not the audio, because he has kind of some exercises in it that are useful to see. And is there any other support or help that I can offer that would help in the book process for any of you guys here?
Well, I have more of a question about, I mean, I'm certainly can pick out very specific moments in my life where a painful situation has motivated me tremendously to do a call for action or response. I feel like the idea of what is your greatest pain has more informed my sole purpose than my business direction. Maybe it helps with my decision making. So I think I'm trying to understand, like, I don't necessarily see it's more of an indirect correlation for how I make decisions, who I surround myself with, the people in my life versus my business. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So maybe if you can kind of solidify that a little more for me, because it's not like, there's something, super, super tragic that's happened in my life that's driven me to this career path. Mm-hmm. There are things that have happened in my life that certainly have caused me to make certain decisions with the way I lead my life. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But do you understand what I'm kind of getting at?
And so, and this is again where I would be curious to go right in, because I didn't see it at first either. It didn't, like, I mean, years of playing with this in this way. And here's the story of my greatest pain. When it was really like, what's my greatest pain? It was the story of being teased in junior high, and by these 3 popular girls. They were mooing at me down the schools of the junior high. And it was so, public humiliation day after day. And I just shrunk and caved in. I couldn't even tell my mom because I was so ashamed. And I didn't realize it until going directly into that story and looking at how it might relate. I was like, oh my gosh, well, no wonder I want to create this, these women's group, because I didn't belong. I got kicked out of belonging from, the women, because I didn't look a certain way. I didn't wear the right clothes. I didn't show up. And that created this catapulting experience for me in my life. And so it's like, now it's, I'm creating these groups for women where we don't have to fit in the world, and we can know we belong. And it's like, oh, I see how that makes sense. So it just revved it up. So that's what I'm curious with you. I would be very, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we went into your greatest pain and then we looked at how does that relate to, especially what's the next iteration of your business? What lights you up? What's that thing that really excites you? Or, oh man, if I could really make this impact in this way, that would just be so amazing for me. I would be very surprised if we didn't find the common thread there. And if you want to, be happy to play with you right now. Do you feel ready to share that story and look at it?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
And it's not because, it's more because I probably needed to step off like the call, and I haven't wanted to. And so I'm just a little distracted. I'm not as present as I would like to be. So
Karen, if you want to do that, just one-to-one, happy to do that. And we can kind of play with that. Just let's block out some time to play and look at that. I love looking at these links. It's so fascinating to me.
Sure.
Cool. Awesome. All right, my friends. So I'll send an email. We'll kind of play with the book idea next time. Play around with the coherence and incoherence. We have just a little bit. We have about 20 minutes. Does anybody want some support on anything? Want some coaching around anything?
It's like opportunity. Here it is.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's close. Let me see. How do we want to close today? All right. So if you have anything in your hands, if you can set it down and just sit comfortably and go ahead and close your eyes. And tuning into your essence, your core values, who you are, your soul purpose. Just feel your space in connection to our group right now in this moment. Even though it's virtual, connecting, hundreds of miles away from each other, there's a connection. So before you feel your connection to the group, come into your individual essence, your core values, and feel your space here. And then start to become aware of the group essence. And the group essence is the combination of who shows up. It's a combination of 2 or more people. And just kind of check in with each person in the group. And as you connect to them, you can make note of your connection to them. And then the group dynamic, it all has an essence. It's always present. It's just usually in the background. So this is just a simple practice of bringing it into the forefront, to be aware of it, to notice it before we put it into the background again. And so we'll close out with just saying a word or two. And we're going to do this popcorn style, and you can keep your eyes closed to do it or open them, whatever. It's just speaking aloud a word that you feel in the group essence, just identifying it, putting it into the space.
Collections just keep coming to my mind.
Collections?
Collection. It just seems like even with the 4 of us on the call, we're all so different, but so unique and many similar traits. It's like a big collection together.
Yeah. A sense of craving, just craving. And as you're noticing this group dynamic, you might notice something, like even craving. I notice it's like, yeah, that's there. That very well may be coming from me, but I'm putting it into, it's still noticing it. So if you notice something, but you're questioning, oh, maybe that's just mine, still put it in. Like, yeah, that's there. Because a lot of times it makes sense. Oh yeah, I was feeling that. Now it makes sense where that's coming from, right?
I would say like rooted or grounded, because we're kind of digging into that, trying to get really, really, really down deep for everyone.
I'm keep coming back to honest, just coming forward as your honest self.
Just noticing too, as everybody kind of said something, like even as as you spoke, just like honest, like as you said that, Liam, it just like notice what the impact that had on me, as I felt even a softening. It's like, oh yeah. So everything that people bring into the group has an impact on everyone. So just noticing how that impacted you.
I just find this really peaceful.
Yeah.
'Cause usually I'm really anxious talking to people, and I was anxious on the call at the beginning, but by the end I feel calm and at peace and grateful.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I feel a steadiness. And enough space to hold whatever. So just coming before you leave the group energy, just go back into your individual energy, your essence. And notice what part of that might be the same or different. And then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. That little exercise that I did is this, it's this new piece of work that I just recently have been introduced to called Authentic Relating. I really like it. It's really being more aware and intentional on how we're being with other people, aware of the impact that we have to make with others. We make an impact by showing up, and by withholding, not showing up, we're always making that impact. And like I was saying, usually it's just in the background. And so this like authentic relating work is really about like bringing our awareness, bringing it into the forefront so that we can be more intentional with it, so that we can be more deliberate with it, and on how we're being with other people. So I really like that. We'll play around with it a little bit more. And thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you for holding space for everybody in this way so that they can watch the recording and be taken through the exercise and go through it for themselves as well. So again, for those watching the recording, in our next 2 calls, we'll hold a little space. I'll probably have like 10 minutes for whoever wants to speak themselves into the room in this way. It's really powerful. As well as ask any questions or get any support. You're also welcome to reach out to me if you're listening to the recording and, I want to dig into my story, but I don't want to do it in the group dynamic just yet. I'm happy to schedule some time to flesh that out with you. It's actually one of my, I think I could do that all day long, every day. It's one of my favorite things to do. So happy to do it with you. All right, you guys.
So how do we hear the recording? Like if we want to go back and listen, you'll just send it.
I'll send you the recording. Along with the book that I referenced, and more details about the next call as well.
Great. Thank you.
Right.
Good to see you guys.
You too. Hey, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.